friends, my name is Irene and today I want to tell you about books I've read in the month of February. February is mostly a flop for me. I read quite a lot, but I can't say that I really enjoyed any of it. There are some books that I gave higher ratings, but none of them will be my top something in the year, which is a shame, you know. It's hard to spend a month without really good book or, really close to your heart book. The first book I want to tell about is Trust by Herman Diaz. This is one of those books where the form prevailed the plot and made it make it more complicated and tell more meta things than the plot itself, than the story itself. But also it was a real disadvantage for me of the reading pleasure. So this book is told in four very different parts, very different in style and in amount of pages. First part is a novel within a novel, which is told about Wall Street tycoon, very wealthy man with a rather introvert personality, and his wife, who ended up in the asylum and was mad and was treated with some very new technologies and died because of that. We see the childhood of the husband and the childhood of the wife and how strange her bringing were. Her family traveled within Europe, and her father was interested in different mystic studies, and he also ended up in the asylum, so it kind of ran in the family, or maybe not. So this novel is called Bonds. It is within a novel of trust. The second part of this book is kind of wrote by Andrew Bevel and is called My Life. Andrew Bevel is fictional Wall Street financial worker, like financial tycoon, very wealthy man, who was a prototype of the main protagonist in Bonds. And he became obsessed with the idea to rewrite that novel and to tell his truth about his life and about his marriage and about his wife. It's not, we can't say that he tells the story. Very short draft, very messy. Sometimes just notes on what he wants to tell. Like, if you can see, like early years and just a few passages of the things he wants to exaggerate. But because he wants to give these accents to different parts of the story, we begin to understand what his point of view is and what how the truth is like formed, maybe shaped by this man who is telling and maybe reimagining his story. So it's almost like a book about false news, but we do not know the truth. So there are different false news from different points of view on the same thing that happened in the past. The third part is about telling from the point of view of Ida Partenza, who became like who wrote this novel My Life for this man. So she was like his secretary who was writing his autobiography. And this is a story of her life, of her bringing, of her troubles and problems, and how she tried to understand his life, to write it truthfully, but also when he shut up her and tried to, gave her directions what and how to shape. She is a very old woman right now, and she became, in her order, obsessed with the diaries of the real wife of this tycoon, who also became ended her life in the asylum. And she, so this Ida, she's like 80, and she found these diaries in the library, and she tried to decipher them. And fourth part of the book is these diaries. Now, when we read the reviews for this book, it is telling us that these diaries of this woman at the end are like the most truthful. But actually, we do not know this. The novel is constructed as different points of view on the same subject, and how wealthy people can shape the reality, not the reality, the understanding of the reality, and what are the gears that they can pull and push to shape the history. This is an interesting idea, but I'd say this is a really dull book because none of these parts are truly interesting and engaging. None of these made you heart race and want to read more. I would say that I read it for a very long time, month and a half. Don't do this. If you are picking up this book, try to read it as fast as possible, because it looks like I have read 4 very mediocre books about very uninteresting people. And it wasn't exciting to read different points of view, because if you are an intelligent person, you know that all people see reality in different ways, and of course shape the reality, try to shape the history and the reality not only in the eyes of other people, but in themselves, in their heads. I would say that this book tried to do something that Agatha Christie did in Five Little Pigs, but I'd say Agatha Christie succeeded and this book didn't so much. Yes, it can be viewed as feministic something, but I thought it was very dull and uninteresting and strange, and I can't say that I recommend it. I gave it 3 stars, but it was just because, you know, the quality of prose is rather good, and the whole idea and the meta quality, I appreciate that, but it wasn't an enjoyable experience at all. So here you are. Then I decided to read a mystery, and it was an interesting experience for me. This is one of the 100 best mystery and thrillers from the Times Magazine article. This is The Yiddish Policeman Union by Michael Chabon. I hope I pronounce it right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I definitely not, but I don't know how to pronounce it right. The author is another Pulitzer Prize winner for another book. This was his second book after those Pulitzer Prize winning Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay. And lots of articles proclaim it as disappointing. I can't say it was disappointing, but it was interesting again in the form. So this is actually not only the mystery book. This is a fantastic like sci-fi alternative history book. I didn't realize it at first because I do not know American history very well, and I didn't pick up this element. So in this alternative history, there is no country of Israel. It wasn't formed, and lots of Jew people after Second World War were gathered in Alaska, and the United States gave them temporary safe place. It was called Sitka District, and they hope that maybe they will be given independence, or they will be like another US state. But at the beginning of this book, we know that there will be reversion, like from the capital letter R. It's like when Sitka will be closed for Jews, and they will have to leave to find another home somewhere. Lots of them want to go to Canada and find asylum there. So their lives are dispersed once more. This is inside this new reality and very different Sitka from what we can see in US history. Because this is a small city in very harsh climate where only Jews live now, and they form their own culture and view of life and ways of life. There is a police unit, and in this police unit there live homicide detective Meyer Landsman, and at the beginning of the book he was called to a murder scene in the apartment building where he actually lived. He doesn't know the man who was killed, but there was unfinished chess game on the table, and he had a long story with chess because his father played chess and was obsessed with it, and it's like a childhood trauma with chess. So he began to investigate this. This is a noir type investigation. He has another policeman who works with him. This policeman is also his like kind of brother, but also he is like a Native American, Native Alaskan person, and he's like half brother, and also like Landsman's wife is his boss, his newly returned from some training boss, who tried to shut down the investigation because someone up like higher than her tried to shut down this investigation. It was interesting. It was a good noir novel, which told, it had a good place and time feeling, but it was imaginary place and time. That's what, tickled me a little bit wrong. I do not know, I never know with books that tell about some part of the country and part of the nation with their own customs. Is it like exotic or is it true to life? And here, because he imagined the place and how the society will evolve in this place, I think it feels more exotic. There is a lot of Yiddish words in here, a lot of very religious Jews with their own customs. And I don't think it's a spoiler because I will not go into details, but the murder itself has its roots deep in Jew religion and history and dreams. And I enjoyed the ride, but I'm not sure how gentle for the Jew community it was. And I can't say what was the main idea of the whole this imaginary world, because definitely it was done for a big reason that author had. And I am not sure what reason was it. Overall, it was very nice. I really enjoyed this book. It was interesting to read, but also it had I had this weird sensation of what was it and why was it written like that. And I don't know what to say. So I kind of recommend it. I think it was an interesting book, but go in it understanding that it's a total fiction and alternative reality. Then maybe you will see this meta quality of this book that I just couldn't grasp. Maybe I need to think more about this. I don't know. Maybe I need to reread it at one point. Overall, I will read more from this author, but maybe I will read reviews before reading his books, because maybe he is too smart for me and I will not understand what he wants to say with this book. With this one, I had strange feeling about it. I wanted to read a mystery, and I read a sci-fi, let's say, alternative reality. So after that, I decided to read just fantasy, and again, it wasn't very enjoyable. I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I can say that it's my least favorite Neil Gaiman. This is interesting book. This particular edition is beautifully illustrated. I really liked it. Like, really liked it. It's a beautiful book. I like to have it at home. Now, this is a book about young boy, but it is definitely not a kid's fiction. It's not a middle grade. Don't give it to any kid in your life. This is an adult book, and it is a rather scary adult book. The one that gave me nightmares. I'd say that it's more horror than fantasy. Definitely, a lot more horror than fantasy. So this is a book about older man who came to the place where he lived when he was a child. He half remember, half forgotten that there was a house at the end of his lane. And in the house there lived three generations of women. An old woman, kind of younger woman who was a mother of this girl his age, that showed him lake in her garden that she said was an ocean. They met after one person on their street killed himself, and a young boy quickly understood that these women knew something about death and about this man that other people do not. They knew his thoughts before he was dead, he knew what was written in the note that was in his pocket and everything else. So there is something like superpowers and natural abilities that are going on. Then the boy woke up choking on a coin that was in his throat. And he brought this coin to the girl, and she told him that this man who died, who killed himself, he woke up some evil substance that now is giving money to people, but in strange ways. And they together need to calm down the substance. So they went in the lake in this like other world. And it happened that this boy made a path for this substance into their world, like into real world. And she came back as a new nanny to his house. And then lots and lots of disturbing things happen. So in this book there are, like suicide attempts and people trying to kill a child a lot, and some nightmarish things that are happening. This is a book about childhood and how adults don't understand children. This is definitely a book about death and what happened after death and how the death happened in life. This is actually a really scary book. I think this is maybe the most scary horror that I have read this year. And this is the thing, I didn't expect it to be a horror. I expected it to be a fantasy or like a light, maybe middle grade horror, like graveyard book. It is not. It is like adult style nightmarish thing. And it gave me lots of nightmares, I can tell you that. With this in mind, this is a beautifully written book and beautifully illustrated edition. The quality of prose is great. It is interesting and definitely one of a kind. This has something in kind of Dandelion Wine by Bradbury, when the reality and the fantasy like kind of combine in the interesting way only children can understand. That's why this book kind of bring you to your childhood, but also kind of in nightmare. It is interesting and great, and I think I would give it a 5-star, but I will definitely not want to reread it, and I would tell my kids not to pick this book up for a long time. So yeah, this is again one of the great Neil Gaiman's books, but I think this is my least favorite, maybe because it was the most frightening of what I've read. I think this book was made in a play in England, and I would like to see this play. That's what I can tell. I can see that it can be very well done. This is definitely a theater source. So yeah, but I can't say that I can recommend this book to anyone. I can't recommend horror that will give you nightmares, you know? But if you want that, this is the book for you. Then I've read The Obelisk Gate by Anne Ken Jemisin. This is second of the Broken Earth trilogy. I enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars, maybe 4.5. I can't say this is my favorite like trilogy. I did not really enjoy the first book. Second, I think, is better. But I don't know. I have this feeling that my understanding of motherhood is very different from Anki Jemisin. So every time when she is telling about child and adult relationships, I cringe somewhat, and there is a lot of these things in here. This book takes place in a world where lots of world-raising geological things are happening all the time. Earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and everything in between. And the society and the humanity tries to rebirth every time after these huge tectonical events. And there are people who can kind of control the earth and the movements of the earth, and they are feared of in this society. Sometimes they are gathered in schools where other people teach them, but often they are just killed by villagers. In first book there is one woman with great powers who began a journey to find her daughter, who was kidnapped by her husband. And in this book she did not find this daughter, but now we have 2 points of view of the main protagonist and of her daughter, who is gaining her power in like another part of this world. I like it. I think it's great. I think this is a good series of a really good prose, but I just can't enjoy it. I don't know why. It's not exciting for me. I wish it went quicker that I can read, and it's not for me a sign that I'm enjoying the book, you know? I like this book and I am proud that I've read it, but I really want to be done with this series as soon as possible, and I do not like the process of reading it. The mother and her thoughts about her children and the things she did to her children during her life, and the daughter and her thoughts about her father and her mother and her understanding of life and her relationships with other adults. These relationships in this book just make me really upset, like all the time. And though I like the world building, the characterization is not for me. Then I read A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I listened to it as an audiobook. I like the experience. I knew nothing, almost nothing, before reading this book. This is actually a book about French Revolution and how it was bubbling and how it came to its power, and what is happening when people are driven to revenge, to excess of their angerness. The thing for me that was strange in this book, that it is very funny. When you read it, it is very funny in all small scenes, in all small characterizations of people. In each chapter that you read, you can make a really funny pictures in your mind, and then it became horrible wrong. And you kind of begin to think about revolution a little bit from the different point of view. Not very heroic. more like not very smart but very angry people gain the power. So this like kind of very enjoyable process of reading a comedy humorous book ended up being a horrible, disastrous ending and very, I don't know, very violent. It didn't make me happy again. I liked the all characters and it was interesting to me to read it. I think it was the most funny Charles Dickens book that I've read to the point, but also it gone terribly wrong at the end because revolution is very violent and there are a lot of deaths and everything like that. So it was interesting experience. I will, I think, give it 5 stars. But again, not my favorite Charles Dickens, and I can't say that I enjoyed the experience of reading this book. And the last book that I just finished and again didn't enjoy at all. I have read it as a Kindle book. Well, I took it from the library, but then I needed to return the book and read it as a Kindle book. It was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy, which kind of has to be like romantasy, I believe, but actually it is a book about, this is like a strange subgenre of modern fantasy, when in some fantasy world someone is acting like a hipster millennial and is opening small shop without any idea what he is doing and kind of succeed. So there is revolution in the capital and there is a librarian who flew the capital because of this revolution and because her library was burned down. She saved few books, actually lots of books. She went on a boat and she took lots of books with her and speaking intelligent plant who is like her secretary. And she went to her hometown which she left when she was 8. It is small, coastal, charming town with the homey vibes and everything. Her parents left this town when he was small to seek a better life in the capital. So she went again to this town in her old parents' cottage, which was neglected but still livable, and decided to open there a jam shop. So she's cooking jams and selling them, and also like she's doing small magical things for people. Though magic is forbidden in this country, or was forbidden before the revolution, and now no one knows what will happen. Nobody heard about the revolution in the capital in this small town, and she doesn't know what it ended with. So she just knew that there was a revolution, emperor was killed, but she doesn't know what now are laws of magic. And at some point, the one other person from the capital came to this town, and it's all began to be horrible wrong. And there is also a love interest in this book. So it's kind of romantasy, but also it's more about trying to build a business without having no clue what she's doing. And yeah, homey vibes, cozy vibes over the town, yes. Beautiful, muscular, like love interest, check. Funny, talking plant, check. But also, what was it all about? What was the purpose of this book? And when it became all very dangerous and very wrong, I just couldn't. I just don't know. It was so cheesy. It was really like a very, very cheesy romance book. You need to go into it with some very low expectations and very like desire to read something cute and silly. Then you will be fine. Also, this book is trying to tell some things about socialism, and I do not think, and think this author knows even like less about socialism that she knows about making jams and doing like the shop. So yeah, I am 2.5, 3 stars. Didn't enjoy it. I have no idea why it wasn't most people favorites of the year. I just didn't enjoy it. Though it was a little book that you can read and somehow enjoy it, maybe. That's it for my February reading. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had more enjoyable books during your February. And yeah, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!